in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean, far from any land or assistance, USS Fletcher's crew watched in horror as 14 glowing spheres rose from the black waters, each one the size of a school bus, positioning themselves around the warship in what could only be described as a deliberate tactical formation. Welcome to Shelley's Mystery Files. The story I'm sharing with you today is about a U.S. Navy destroyer being surrounded by 14 mysterious glowing spheres in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. Sarah, could you first introduce yourself and tell us about the composition of your crew serving aboard USS Fletcher that night?
Hello, Shelley. I'm Captain Sarah Mitchell. I've been serving in the U.S. Navy for 18 years. USS Fletcher is an Arleigh Burke-class destroyer, and that night, we were on routine patrol duty with my 280-person crew. My crew consisted of sailors, radar operators, weapons system specialists, electronics technicians, and deck personnel.
What were your mission details on the night of October 15th, 2023, and where exactly was USS Fletcher's position at that time?
We were conducting routine patrol duty in international waters, approximately 800 nautical miles west of the Azores. It was around 23:30 at night. The sea was calm, visibility was perfect. We were controlling the area as part of NATO exercises. No threats were expected.
When were the first abnormal radar signals detected, and what was your radar operator's initial reaction?
At 23:47 that night, Radar Operator Chief Petty Officer Marcus Thompson came to the bridge with deep concern on his face. He said he had detected 14 unknown objects on his radar that didn't match any military or civilian aircraft profiles. Initially, we thought it was a system malfunction.
What were the movement characteristics of these unknown objects, and how did they differ from conventional aircraft?
The objects were moving at approximately 3,000 miles per hour, which is impossible for any known aircraft. They made sudden direction changes, completely ignoring G-force rules. Their radar signatures were inconsistent, as if their metallicity was constantly changing.
How long did the transition from radar contact to visual contact take, and what was the crew's first visual impression?
About 5 minutes later, deck personnel reported glowing objects around the ship. When I also stepped out from the bridge, I saw 14 glowing spheres the size of school buses surrounding USS Fletcher in perfect symmetric formation. The crew was in shock.
How was the detailed physical appearance of these glowing spheres and their light emission characteristics?
Each sphere was approximately 12 meters in diameter, perfectly round, with a metallic surface, but also emitting a soft blue-white light from within. The light wasn't constant. It pulsed rhythmically, as if breathing. There were no protrusions, doors, or markings on their surfaces.
What was the sphere's distance to the ship and your tactical formation analysis?
Each sphere was positioned exactly 200 meters from our ship, at perfectly equal intervals. It was like 14 points standing on a huge circle with our ship at the center. It was clear this formation couldn't be coincidental. It was definitely intentional and calculated arrangement.
Were communication attempts made with these objects, and what protocols were used?
We tried to establish communication on standard maritime frequencies, emergency channels, even with light signals. We received no response, Morse code, radio calls, visual signals. Nothing worked. It was as if they couldn't hear us or didn't care.
When did the electronic systems malfunction begin, and which systems were affected?
Around midnight, as the sphere's lights began to glow even brighter, our electronic systems started shutting down one by one. First the radar went, then sonar, communications, navigation systems, even weapons control systems shut down. Our ship had become technologically powerless.
What was the crew reaction to the electronic systems failure, and how was discipline maintained?
The crew initially panicked, but training kicked in. We implemented emergency protocols, switched to manual systems, but there was no manual procedure for such extensive electronic failure. To maintain discipline, I kept the crew busy with tasks.
How was emergency procedures implementation conducted, and what was the backup system's functionality?
We applied standard emergency protocols: manual navigation, visual communications, mechanical steering systems. However, even backup systems weren't working. Diesel generators were running, lights were on, but no electronic components were responding. This situation wasn't in the manuals.
What were the crew's safety concerns, and were protective measures taken?
I moved the crew to the ship's interior sections, against possible radiation exposure. Medical personnel conducted continuous health monitoring. Fortunately, no immediate health effects were observed, but we had serious concerns about exposure to unknown energy fields.
Did you observe the sphere's behavior patterns and movement characteristics?
The sphere's movement was hypnotic. They made slow, synchronized rotations, as if they were dancing. Sometimes one would rise slightly, another would descend, but the formation never broke. There was perfect coordination between them.
Were there water surface effects due to the sphere's presence?
The sea surface under the spheres remained strangely calm. There was no normal wave movement, as if the water's molecular structure had changed. Bioluminescent algae formed unusual patterns and shapes I'd never seen before.
How were internal ship communications affected and crew coordination?
Internal communication systems had completely collapsed. We were physically running to send messages. We used runners for communication between ship sections. We returned to old-school naval techniques, hand signals, and voice commands.
What was the exact duration of the encounter, and were there time perception changes?
Officially, it lasted 3 hours and 47 minutes, but crew members reported different time perceptions. Some felt it had lasted much longer. Others said it felt like only minutes had passed. Chronometer readings were inconsistent.
How did the sphere's departure sequence occur, and what were the observable patterns?
At 4:34 in the morning, without any warning, the sphere's lights suddenly brightened, as if experiencing internal energy buildup. Then, the most interesting part began. One by one, they started departing from around our ship in perfect clockwise direction. Each sphere emitted a unique harmonic vibration as it departed. The crew felt vibrations in the ship's metal structure. They moved with mathematical precision without ever breaking formation. When the last sphere left, as if a switch had been turned on, all electronic systems suddenly started working normally.
How was the system's restoration process and any permanent damage assessment?
When the systems were restored, we conducted comprehensive full functionality tests. The electronics officer checked all circuits one by one: radar systems calibration, weapons systems diagnostic, communication equipment verification. There was no permanent damage. Everything was working at factory settings. The strangest part was that system logs for that 3 hours and 47 minutes period were completely empty, as if that time frame had never existed. Even backup systems couldn't record any data. We had experienced complete electronic amnesia.
How were official reporting procedures handled, and what was the chain of command response?
I immediately contacted Fleet Command through secured channels and transmitted an initial preliminary report. I prepared a detailed incident report, but the normally routine process was classified at the highest level within 48 hours. The official debriefing wasn't standard. Specialized personnel came, crew members were interrogated in individual isolation, cross-referencing was done between statements. There was unusual nervousness in the command structure, as if they were aware of similar incidents, but there was no official acknowledgement.
What was the government investigation team arrival and interview process like?
72 hours later, a special investigation team came aboard the ship. Naval intelligence, probably CIA agents, scientists. Individual interviews were conducted with each crew member. Equipment was confiscated, personal devices checked, comprehensive psychological evaluations conducted.
What was the crew's psychological impact assessment and ongoing effects?
The crew came out normal in psychological evaluations, but many members reported sleep disturbances, vivid dreams, enhanced awareness of electronic devices. Some crew members claimed improved intuition, others experienced anxiety around advanced technology.
How were media blackout procedures and information control implemented?
Complete media blackout was imposed. Crew families were notified that routine exercise was postponed. Official cover story was prepared. Extended training mission. Personal communication was monitored. Social media restricted. Comprehensive non-disclosure agreements signed.
Was there awareness of similar incidents within the naval community?
Informal conversations revealed other naval personnel had similar experiences. Reports of unusual radar contacts, electronic failures, unexplained phenomena. The pattern suggested global occurrences, but systematic suppression of information.
Were scientific analysis attempts made after the encounter?
Limited scientific analysis was possible due to classification. Water samples were taken, electromagnetic readings recorded where possible. Results were classified immediately. No feedback was provided to the crew. Scientists seemed excited but constrained by security protocols.
What were the international waters' legal implications and jurisdiction questions?
Complex legal questions arose about encounters in international waters. Maritime law was inadequate for such phenomena. Questions about territorial claims, threat assessment, international cooperation protocols. The legal framework was completely unprepared.
Did you consider technology implications based on your observations?
The technology demonstrated was centuries ahead of anything we possess. Energy systems, propulsion, materials science, electromagnetic control, revolutionary implications for naval engineering. Defense applications are enormous, but also concerning for global security balance.
Was environmental monitoring conducted in the encounter area?
Post-encounter environmental monitoring revealed no negative effects. Marine life actually seemed more active. Water quality was unchanged. Some unusual readings in electromagnetic fields persisted for days, gradually diminishing to normal background levels.
Were crew training modifications made following the encounter experience?
Enhanced protocols were developed for unusual phenomena encounters. Improved documentation procedures, better communication protocols, psychological preparation for extraordinary events. Training was expanded to include scenarios beyond conventional warfare.
How was your personal career impacted after the encounter?
Career advancement continued normally, but with additional security clearances. Special assignment opportunities increased, consulting on unusual phenomena cases. Enhanced credibility within naval intelligence community, but limited public discussion allowed.
How were family disclosure and personal relationships affected?
Limited disclosure to immediate family only. My wife is supportive but concerned about security implications. My children are curious but understand the sensitivity. Personal relationships strengthened through shared extraordinary experience, but created ongoing caution about public discussion.
Was long-term health monitoring conducted for the crew?
Comprehensive health monitoring was implemented for all crew members. Annual medical exams, psychological evaluations, blood work, neurological testing. So far, no negative health effects detected, some enhanced cognitive functions, reported by the medical team.
Did you make equipment upgrade recommendations based on your experience?
I submitted detailed recommendations for electronic systems, hardening, backup communication methods, electromagnetic shielding improvements, enhanced detection equipment, better recording capabilities, improved crew training for unusual encounters. Many recommendations were implemented fleet-wide.
Are there international cooperation discussions for similar encounters?
Limited international cooperation through NATO channels, exchange of information about unusual phenomena, coordinated response protocols, shared technology development, increased maritime security cooperation, but still significant classification restrictions.
How have awareness changes occurred in current naval operations?
Significantly enhanced awareness during all operations. Improved scanning procedures, better crew briefings about potential unusual encounters, enhanced documentation protocols. The naval community is more alert, but still operating under information restrictions.
Did research interest develop after the encounter?
Strong interest in advanced physics, electromagnetic phenomena, materials science research, reading scientific literature, attending conferences where permitted, networking with researchers. Hope for future military scientific collaboration on understanding such encounters.
What message would you give to naval personnel experiencing similar experiences?
Document everything possible. Maintain professional objectivity, trust your training and crew. Unusual encounters challenge our understanding, but naval discipline and teamwork remain essential. Don't let extraordinary events undermine confidence in naval capabilities. Most importantly, maintain open communication with your crew members. Psychological support is critical. No one should feel alone. Report through official channels, but personal safety is always priority. Remember, we're trained professionals. Even extraordinary situations require professional response.
Finally, how do you assess this encounter's impact on naval warfare understanding?
This encounter fundamentally changed my understanding of naval warfare and our place in the maritime domain. We may not be alone in controlling the oceans, and our technology may be far more primitive than we realize. Maritime security concepts have been completely redefined. Traditional threats pale in comparison to unknown advanced technologies. Naval strategy, tactics, even basic assumptions about ocean control should be questioned. This experience showed us that humility is required. We're not the apex predators of the seas as assumed. Future naval development should consider this reality. Advanced detection systems, better crew training, international cooperation have become essential.
Sarah, thank you so much for sharing this incredible naval encounter with us. Your professional perspective is very valuable.
Thank you, Shelley. This experience shows that the naval community needs to be prepared for unusual phenomena. The oceans may be much more complex and mysterious than we think.
Captain Sarah Mitchell's extraordinary encounter with USS Fletcher shows that advanced extraterrestrial technology has an active presence in the world's oceans. The detailed observations of this professional officer with 18 years of naval experience reveal the vulnerability of naval forces against unknown powers. If you've also experienced similar unusual encounters during naval operations, please share them with us in the comments. Don't forget to subscribe to Shelley's Mystery Files channel and see you in our next maritime mystery.